I wouldn't be surprised at all if there are some people out there who think that I am soft on Islam. In a way, it's even true. I am a lot less hard on Muslims than I would be on Christians. Some of that is very simple to explain. After all, I do originally come from a Christian background. I was raised as a Catholic, so I understand that religion better than I would Islam, so I can think of a lot more valid criticism to level against Christian religions than I could against Islam. But that aside, on the one hand, I find it hard to believe that people think that I'm actually soft on Islam. Because I have stated in a number of videos in the past that under no circumstances will I ever submit to Islam. I have stated very clearly that in order for Islam to ever conquer the world or rule the world, it would have to be over my dead body and over that of 5 billion other people. That the only way that they will ever see that fantasy realized is by perpetrating extreme violence on a massive scale. And that I, for one, I'm not going to tolerate this. People might think that I'm soft on Sharia law, but I have made it very clear, I thought, that under no circumstances will I tolerate any form of implementation of a Sharia penal system in our Western societies. I will stand up and oppose that with all my might. Having said that, having some form of civil Sharia arbitration in place is to me no more strange than the idea that some people are engaged in kinky sex, for example. It's not my cup of tea, but as long as it's between consenting adults, why should I care? But I will not allow any Muslim to put any demands on me or curtail my freedom of expression, even while I will accept that they have, for example, a perfect right to complain about things that they see as being insulting to Islam. They must realize that the only reason why they can actually complain about this is because they enjoy the same freedom of expression that allows us to make the insulting comments in the first place. It cuts both ways. All that is very true, and all that I will not yield. But I have been quite soft on Islam on a number of other occasions. And there are very good reasons for that. I've already explained that I know the Christian religion better than Islam anyway, so I've got a lot more ammunition to criticize it with. But there's more to it than that. First of all, I would like you to engage with a Muslim in discussion. And even if you are engaged with a Muslim who is actually quite fundamentalist, they might initially like to tell you about hellfire and damnation and all sorts of other lovely stuff. And if you open the Quran, no doubt you find a plethora of verses gleefully describing what happens to some people when they go to hell. But ask a Muslim whether they can actually tell you that you will go to hell. And ask them to think about it for a moment. And at some point they will come to the realization that it is not their position to condemn anybody. That final decision of whether somebody is going to be condemned to hell or not lies with Allah, and no matter how much you know about a person, there's no way you can be absolutely sure what's going to happen to that person. Even if you as a Muslim know that I am a rabid atheist, I will never ever submit to your idea of God. I have no respect for the Quran. and I will never ever submit to Islam, you cannot say that I will go to hell, because that decision, in the end, you have to accept as a Muslim, is in the hands of your God and your God only. And you cannot make that decision. And a Muslim, once they start thinking about that, will realize that that is true and that they cannot therefore condemn you. Contrast that to a Christian who will quite happily tell you that they can tell you exactly what their God is going to decide, effectively making their own God subordinate to their ideas about it. Nuts! You think Islam is crazy, Christianity is off the scale. So that difference is one thing. But then there's another thing, and that is even more important in my opinion than any sort of background to what the religion is about and whether Islam really is a religion of peace or not. And there's one thing that Muslims and atheists have in common. Even though they are diametrically opposed in many other ways, there's one thing we have in common. And that's this. Within Western societies, we are vilified, demonized minorities. And from that perspective, I can feel an awful lot of sympathy for Muslims, no matter how much I disagree with them. I know, I can understand part of what they're going through, because it is no different to us atheists. We don't wear distinctive clothing so that somebody at the first glance can tell that we are atheists. But once people find out, we are often treated no better than some people treat Muslims. And if my experience as an atheist is anything to go by, I shudder to think what some Muslims have to go through. And that is probably the most important reason why I am soft on Islam.